Well, welcome back. The air control tower at Reagan National Airport reportedly understaffed the night of the fatal jet and chopper collision. A preliminary FAA report finds the number of staff working Wednesday night were not normal for the time of day and the volume of traffic. That is a quote. Congress already responding. Senate Commerce Committee Chairman Ted Cruz, who has oversight authority over the FAA and the Transportation Department, promising a thorough and careful investigation. Texas Congressman and Aviation Subcommittee top Republican Troy Nehls also demanding a congressional hearing. He wants the NTSB members to testify in what went wrong, how they can prevent further crashes. Nehls also demanding the board conduct a quick investigation, saying he does not want to hear that it will take 18 months. Joining me now is Missouri Congressman Eric Burlison. He's a member of the House Transportation and Oversight Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning.
Good to be on.
What do you think went wrong?
Well, I think that we have President Trump, unfortunately, inheriting a weakened, anemic, broken system from the top to the bottom. I mean, when you just reflect on the past few months where you had a FEMA director that had to apologize because of the scandal that was happening in their agency, and when you looked at their priority, their number one priority and mission statement was DEI. We had the Secret Service come in and apologize for allowing someone to get that close and take a shot at President Trump. And they had to come in and apologize. Well, guess what? Their number one priority, as was the mission on their website, was DEI. And as we know, that it's been talked about even before Trump took office. In fact, there was a November story that was done by The Blaze about, really clairvoyantly calling for this event that may tragically happen and did. They had this story back in November saying that this agency is riddled with DEI problems and hiring problems, and that it's inevitable something's going to happen. So it's sad that Trump has inherited this, but I think that he's moving quickly to clean it up.
Yeah, he talked about this yesterday in terms of what the Biden administration prioritized, and they did, in fact. He read headlines that they did, in fact, want to hire people with disabilities for air traffic control. Do you have any evidence, though, sir, that any of those hires were, in fact, DEI hires?
Not until we get into the investigation. At the end of the day, it's where is their focus? What is their mission? They need to. We need every agency of the federal government to be focused on merit, especially in air traffic control. We want the brightest, the quickest minds, and the most talented individuals we can. And anything that's diverting from that is pulling away from our core mission.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching your investigation. We too want to get to the bottom of it, and our hearts bleed for the families who have had loved ones taken from them. Let me move on to the tariff story, because President Trump's 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada will apparently go into effect tomorrow. The president has confirmed this, but some Trump aides are still hoping to dial this back. I've been reporting this week that I wasn't expecting it to start tomorrow. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting the administration is considering whether to put forth the targeted tariffs or tax all imports. Here's the president yesterday. Watch this.
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time.
The president also said that oil has nothing to do with these tariffs. Congressman, your thoughts?
I think that President Trump is trying to do decades of an imbalance that has happened. I mean, you look at the situation where we're being taxed 2.5% on vehicles that are coming in from China. We're charging them a tariff of 2.5%. They're charging us 25%. So I think that when you see a lot of these trade imbalances, he's trying to undo things that have been, that need to be corrected that have been problems for over decades.
Yeah, and I understand that. I'm just wondering if you expect retaliation from these countries. I mean, if we start seeing all of these tariffs and a back and forth, does that essentially become a trade war, like much of the media has been criticizing President Trump's policy on this?
And I think that the boldness of President Trump really creates a posture that countries are not going to want to challenge. So I can definitely see, and I think we all know that if Mexico or Canada responds with increased tariffs, Trump is just going to double down. So I think that if anything, we're going to see what happened in Colombia, where they immediately backed off of their policy choices.
Yeah, absolutely. They got in line real fast. Congressman, it's good to see you. I just before you go, let me just get your take on what you just finished, your retreat. Was there any solutions in terms of your budget battle from that Florida retreat?
Look, we have a great and bold vision that was given to us by President Trump and J.D. Vance. And sadly, I think that my colleagues woefully underperformed when it comes to looking for the spending cuts necessary to accommodate for the Trump tax cuts. Look, we're supposed to be finding money and cutting spending to the tune of close to $2.5–3 trillion. And we couldn't find $300 billion to cut.
And you couldn't find what?
We could barely find over $300 billion to cut.
Well, we know that
this is over a 10-year period.
The largesse is mandatory spending, right? Do you have to take an axe to mandatory spending?
Look, we need to at least pull it back to pre-COVID era levels, which is what the Freedom Caucus is asking for. Let's return to at least the levels that existed before we allowed Biden to completely inflate the budget. Even at pre-COVID era levels, that's not a balanced budget. And It doesn't get us towards a balanced budget, but at least it gets us closer to fiscal sanity.
Congressman, thank you. We'll be watching your work, sir.